Welcome back to our Best of 2024 series, where we take some of the best bikes in the industry and put them head-to-head in a series of absurd tests. We've done Affordable, where we saw the IMA Santa Monica take first. We've done Fat Tire, in which the Himalaya C5 took home the goose. And we've done Folding, where Monday Motorbike's first folding e-bike, the Verano, did not mess around and took home the cake. I can't just say first for all of those, and I needed to get creative there. So up next, and probably the one I was personally looking forward to the most, eMTB. We're going to be doing some, eMTB stuff to test these bikes out, but before we get into that, let's meet the competitors. Starting us off is the Aventon Rambless. Hailed as one of the best consumer-level eMTBs, the Rambless is Aventon's first foray into the world of true eMTBs. It's a hardtail priced at $2,899 with an Aventon A100 mid-drive motor rated at 36 volts, 250 watts nominal, 750 watts peak, with 100 Nm of torque and an IP67 rating. It has an all-SRAM 12-speed drivetrain with SRAM DB8 quad-piston hydraulic brakes. The front suspension is a RockShox 35 Silver R with 130 mm of travel. Next, we have the Modbike's Mod Black 3. It's the only full suspension bike in the field today and comes with a price tag of $2,999. It has a 750-watt rear hub motor, 100 mm of travel with the Mozo front forks, an EXA Form A5 rear shock, a 7-speed Shimano drivetrain, and hydraulic brakes. And last but certainly not least, we have the Summit One from Velotrek. With a price tag of just $1,999, it's the most affordable eMTB in the field today. It comes with a 750-watt rear hub motor with 100 Nm of torque, hydraulic front suspension with 120 mm of travel, and a Shimano 8-speed drivetrain, and Shimano hydraulic brakes. And now that you know a little bit about the bikes we'll be testing today, let's get into the competition.
Next up is the hill climb test. This is our MTB challenge. We're going to be taking all three of these mountain bikes up that hill. See if they can get up to the top. Wish me luck.
Starting us out is the Mod Black 3. It has a pretty powerful motor, and we had some high expectations of it making it to the top of the hill, but this hill is pretty extreme, and it just didn't have the torque required to make it all the way to the top. Next was the Rambless's turn. Being the only mid-drive in the field, we felt pretty confident in its ability to conquer the hill, but even though Tyson tried his best, it was good he was wearing his full body armor here. Now, to be fair, the SRAM DB8 quad piston brakes could have easily held him up on the slope, probably could have held him up on a wall, but where is the entertainment value in that, am I right? Finally, and the only bike to make it up the hill was the Summit One from Velotrek. I guess we should have known it would make it to the top. I mean, it's in the name. Even though it struggled a bit towards the top of this extreme incline, it did manage to make it all the way up and earned itself 10 sweet points. All in all, the bikes did fairly well, and even though the Rambless has a mid-drive motor and some top-notch low-end torque, it was pretty impressive that the only bike to make it to the top was the Summit One. Alright guys, the next test we're going to do is the agility test. We're going to be putting these eMTBs through their paces. We've got a nice little course back here, and we're going to see which one of them can do it the fastest. So let's get into it. All good mountain bikes should be able to handle off-road terrain, so we'd be remiss if we didn't test out those capabilities on these bikes. In our agility test, we'll be taking these bikes through some quick ups and downs, a bank or two, some jumps, and a few climbs. So let's see how they did. First up was the Mod Black 3. Being full suspension made the entire course pretty smooth sailing for me. The rake on the front fork wasn't quite as angled as the other two competitors, and that made the steeper downhill sections feel just a bit steeper. It had pretty good power throughout the course, and while it made up some time in the straightaways, the jumping section slowed it down a little bit. It ended up crossing the finish line with a time of 1 minute, 0.69 seconds. Next up was the Aventon Rambless. While the low-end torque here is pretty insane, it was a bit harder to maintain its top speed through the jumping sections. I'll get into why a bit more in depth when we get to the jumping test. It was a true to form mountain bike, and I felt right at home on the course, cruised up the final hill and bombed through the finish line with a crossing time of 59.12 seconds. The last to take on the agility test was the Summit One. It's a hardtail, and while the ride was not quite as smooth as the Mod Black 3, there wasn't a whole lot of difference on this particular course. It was surprisingly nimble through the choppy sections, and without giving too much away, it was the easiest bike to jump in the jump section. It crushed the final hill and crossed the finish line in 59.59 seconds. Now, this is by no means a grueling course for these bikes, but it does showcase some of the strengths and weaknesses here pretty well.
What's up everybody, Tyson here from Ride Review. I want to take a quick moment to tell you about Micromobility America. This is a micromobility focused conference that is happening in Southern California on November 14th and 15th this year. Now we are pulling out all the stops and trying to get a lot more dealers and if you're a store owner or maybe a distributor for electric vehicles, bikes, scooters, skateboards, EUCs, micro cars, anything like that. We want to get you involved at this event. We're going to have representatives from hundreds of manufacturers there. Most of these representatives are going to be, C-level, founders, engineers. So if there's brands that you're interested in, you can, skip the email chains and just go, straight to the people who actually make the decisions and can really tell you what these products are about and why they made them this way. Also at this event, you can expect, we're going to have networking mixers, we're going to have after parties, we're going to have the dealer awards, we're going to have a Shark Tank style competition where manufacturers can bring in some of their, new and outlandish product ideas, and then the dealers will get a chance to, vet those and rank those, see if they're going to be good for the market or not. If you guys are interested, please check out the description of the video. You're going to find a link where you can learn more and get registered. All right, back to the video.
It's time for the braking test. Like I said, this is a pretty simple test, and since all these bikes will be braking in an off-road environment, we tested them in the same environment. The Mod Black 3 was up first, with an average stopping distance of 27.6 feet. The Mod Black 3 comes with hydraulic brakes, 180mm rotors, and a fairly decent off-road ready tread, so the results were pretty good here based on the speed and the loose dirt at the bottom of the hill. The Summit one was next. It had an average stopping distance of just 21.6 feet. It also has hydraulic brakes and 180mm rotors, but has a slightly more aggressive tread on the tire, which may have helped it come to a halt a bit sooner when compared with the Mod Black 3. The Rambless was the favorite going into this competition. SRAM DB8 quad piston brakes are pretty top of the line brakes, and the larger 200mm rotor, yes, 200mm, it's a SRAM thing, in the front and 180mm rotor in the rear placed it above the field on paper. However, it actually tied with the Summit one with an average stopping distance of 21.6 feet, which was one of the more surprising endings we had while filming. In the end, braking comes down to several factors such as terrain, tire tread, rotor size, and the amount of pistons, and making sure your bike is set up for the terrain you'll be riding in. That doesn't have much to do with this next contest, but it's good food for thought when looking to purchase an e-bike. We're doing our thing. We're rocking, we're rolling, listen to me sing. We're rocking. So for the next test, we're gonna be doing some eMTB jumping, seeing how they handle in the air, how they approach the jumps, just how they feel when they're flying through the sky. Now, if you're anything like me, and odds are you're not because my mom told me I was special, but if you are, you probably want to do a little bit of jumping on an eMTB at some point, so that's why we did what we're about to do, some jumping. Now, part of this is subjective, but I'll do my best to describe what I'm feeling when I'm approaching the jump, in the air, and landing. Be warned, I'm not a mountain biking expert, but I do love a little hang time now and again. The hardest bike to jump was the Mod Black 3. The main reasons are the weight, the rake angle, and the cockpit. Diving down into those, we'll start with the weight. The geometry and how the weight is placed here make it a bigger bike to control when in the air. The rake angle being a bit tighter than its competitors make the ups and downs feel a little bit more extreme, and it can be hard to gauge how to hit the right attack angles on the jumps. The cockpit feels a little bit out of place when we're talking mountain bikes, and that also makes it handle a bit strange. Now, don't get me wrong, landing a jump onto a full suspension is pretty nice, even if there's not a whole lot of travel or adjustability here. The bike that performed a bit better was the Rambless, and here's why. The only reason really is the motor cutoff on approach. So if you're approaching a jump at certain speeds and you're feeling the acceleration you're at and preparing to jump, when you set up for the jump and stop pedaling, the deceleration here is pretty dramatic, and it kept throwing me off. When compared with my traditional mountain bike, the Rambless felt like it had less coasting capabilities and the slowdown was more dramatic here. When in the air, it handles really well, and landing on a rear wheel that doesn't have a motor laced into it is also some pretty decent peace of mind. The bike that I enjoyed jumping the most, and I told you this part was pretty subjective, was the Summit one from Velotric, and here's why. Weight distribution was pretty good, despite the fact that it is a rear hub. The addition of the throttle meant I could keep my desired speed through the jumps, which meant I didn't have to decelerate at all. Rake angle felt just right for doing some jumping. Now, this was the most intuitive bike to get airborne with. The inclusion of the throttle was something that helped maintain my speed through the jumps, and while that may limit it in certain MTB parks, it's really fun for the types of trails I would normally ride on. The rake angle felt great, and if you've been off-road on a bike that wasn't set up for that, you know what I mean. The only negative here is the rear hub. The rear wheel will take a beating, especially when jumping to flat, so if you're looking to do some serious aerobatics, you may want to lean more towards the mid-drives for that scenario. And after our full day of testing, let's see how these bikes stack up. In third place is the Mod Bikes Mod Black 3 with a total score of 33 points. In second place is the Aventon Rambless with a total score of 37 points. In first place, the Velotrix Summit 1 with a total score of 40 points. Thank you for hanging out with us while we tested these eMTBs. If you're in the market for something else, be sure to check out our competition videos for affordable, fat tire, and folding. Stay tuned for more ride review, and we'll catch you on the next one.